Hey mamas, this is part 2 of my conversation with Michelle Solger as we talk about all things postpartum depression and our mental health space. Now, hopefully you listened to part 1, and if you didn't, I strongly encourage you to pause me and go back one episode to get the start of this conversation, and then come back here so you can get the rest of the information that Michelle has to share with us. Now, Michelle is a postpartum educator, a mental wellness advocate, and a mom of 2. She is currently working on her certificate as a mental wellness coach. And after having her kids, she realized the absence of honest motherhood on social media and the lack of education about what your body is going through postpartum. And with that, she wanted to change how we saw things. So her passion is to teach mamas what is happening in their bodies postpartum and show all the real raw parts of being mom. All right, let's jump into part 2 of this conversation with Michelle. Hey mama, are you struggling with how to make time for yourself as a work-at-home mom? Are you drowning in laundry and dishes, poopy diapers, and kids who are constantly screaming, Mom, even though they're 5 feet away from you? I get it. I'm Jessa Ray, and this is Caught Up in Motherhood, where I want to help you set priorities, create boundaries, ask for help, and learn to love yourself in motherhood again. You can show up for you without sacrificing motherhood and without the guilt. So if you're ready to be caught up in motherhood, then go grab a fresh cup of coffee and that laundry basket sitting in the corner. Don't worry, I've got mine too. And listen in to today's episode. Okay, so with that and that communication and postpartum, how can we take it back here and prepare ourselves for having a baby? So is there anything that we can do while we're pregnant or before we get pregnant to help prepare for baby?
I think the biggest thing is knowledge and
Okay.
knowing what is happening and what is going to happen. Even just as simple as knowing what's going to happen to your hormones after you have that baby.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know as I learned what was happening with my hormones, it made so much more sense in my brain of why I was feeling the things I was feeling. Because when you're just going through them, you're like, okay, well, this is cool. But if you know what's normal, you know what's not normal, then you know when you need to ask for help. And I think there's so many things about childbirth and postpartum that you're not warned about that you think that you're blindsided by and you think aren't normal that actually are.
Like going to the bathroom.
Yes.
Or doing the dishes and sleeping.
I mean, like I ended up with stitches after my first baby. I was like, I have stitches down there?
Right.
What do I do? How do I sitting down hurt. Nobody warned me that sitting would be so painful.
Right.
Or the fact that they sent me home with some ibuprofen. And I'm like, why do I need ibuprofen? What is that going to help with? It does. You have a ton of swelling, especially if you have stitches down there. And
the padsticles.
Yes. Things like that people don't necessarily talk about. Or I know for me, I loved Depends. They were so much easier than the big chunky pads.
Yes.
But if nobody tells you that, you don't know what to expect or even I think how long we bleed.
Right.
You're like, oh, I had a baby. It's done. It's over with. No, it's not. Like you guys are both going to be wearing diapers for a little while. And I just don't feel like anybody is really prepared enough. And so I just think preparation. You take all these classes on how to care for baby or even maybe some childbirth classes, but nobody teaches a postpartum class.
Right. How to take care of you.
Nobody tells you what happens once you leave that hospital. Especially after your first baby, they give you like supplies and they're like, okay, bye. And you're like, wait, that's it? I'm on my own. Are you sure? Are you sure this is a good idea? Can't I just stay here a little bit longer?
Right.
So I think just being prepared of what's going to happen And this is kind of a little bit of a side note, but making freezer meals.
Yes,
Something
absolutely.
something I was told before my first, and I was like, why would I need freezer meals? I can make dinner. It's just a
No.
baby. That's not that hard. Oh my gosh, yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, freezer meals, having easy meals, and accepting help.
Yes.
If somebody says, hey, I want to bring you a meal, say yes.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Yeah, freezer meals were a big one for us with my first, and then following after that, and grocery delivery.
Oh, yes.
I
Grocery
did that one
delivery
too.
is
My husband has since taken over grocery shopping, which has been huge, and he does a really good job. He's learned how to do it and does it right now, so it's great. But like you said, just those things that you don't think about, like making dinner. I can make dinner. No, you can't. Your kid wants to eat. Like they just know. Like all three of my kids, for some reason, I don't know if this is for all babies or just mine, but my husband calls it the mommy hour. But it's like 3 hours long, where all they want to do from like 4 o'clock to 7 is just nurse. And like I can't cook. I can't nurse and cook and hot stove and babies and like no. So having those freezer meals, like you don't think about, but yeah, those are a big deal. And then caring for yourself, like you said, there's no like structured class really out there to say you're going to need this, or you're going to lose a bunch of hair around 3 months, or your hormones are going to change where you're going to think that you smell disgusting, but no one else can smell it. Mm-hmm. Or your skin's going to change and bruising is going to be different, just your whole body in general. And I always try to remind my mamas too that it took 9 months, 10, 40 weeks to make that baby. It's going to take that long, if not longer, for your body to go back. You can't just expect 6 weeks, okay, like your organs moved.
Bounce back is not a thing.
No, you need time, mentally, physically, all of it, to figure out this new normal. Whether it's baby number 1 or baby number 5, it's all new. It's all something you need to refigure out. Even if you know how to take care of baby, like that's great, but your postpartum experience is going to be different with each kid. It's not going to be the same. There might be similarities, right? But they're not going to be the same, where you're like, oh, this happens at this stage, this happens at this point. No.
Once you think you have it figured out, that is when they completely flip the script on you. When you're like, oh, I got this. Your kids are like, yep. You want to bet? And everything will change. Every pregnancy is different. Every postpartum is different. Every kid is different.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there may be like underlying themes that are the same, but every postpartum is going to be a new learning experience. Or even things like my feet grew. My shoe size grew. I was not expecting that. I had no idea that could happen. I knew that like maybe my clothes may not fit, but nobody told me my shoes weren't going to fit.
Right.
And never go back.
I had to get my wedding ring resized because I never went back down. My fingers never went back to the size that they were. Or I think one of the things that was really funny for me was after my first, I got curly Q hair.
Yes, your hair can definitely change.
Spiral curls. Now baby number 3, straight, super straight. The curls are gone. I'm like, I finally figured out how to do my hair curly, and then they're gone. Like that's just the hormonal way of how it went. But it was just this so funny thing of like, Susie Q curls after my first. So like I had no idea what to do about that. And I'm like, that's not even a thing. Like, how is that a thing? But like I said, even like with the feet, like you just don't know what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Hormones change and they affect so much that until you're in it, you don't fully know what to expect. But knowing that it's something can change, I think is very helpful.
For sure.
Okay. Awesome. Oh, I'm liking this conversation. There's such good stuff in here. So with all of that, what do moms commonly say they were surprised about concerning their postpartum? Like we've talked a little bit, like you were surprised about the feet. Curly hair for me was a big surprise.
Yeah.
But what are some common things that moms tell you that they're surprised about concerning postpartum and being a new mom?
Yeah, there's a lot actually that is just surprising to people. One of those being how much breastfeeding hurts and how
Oh,
it is
yeah.
not natural. And I think, I mean, it's natural, but it does not necessarily come to you or baby naturally.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, I know I went in to, first kid with thinking, oh, you just put baby up and they know how to latch and everything is perfect. And that is not how it is for the majority of people.
Mm-hmm. You can run a marathon with the baby just sitting there going to town. No.
It can be painful.
Mm-hmm.
You are having to learn how to do it. Baby is having to learn how to do it. Like there's a learning curve. It's going to be different for everybody, every mom, every baby, even. Like you may have had a great experience with your first baby and your second baby may not latch. Just because you knew how to do it the first time doesn't mean that it's going to work the second time. And I think a lot of moms are blindsided by that because, again, it's just made to be this picture perfect thing. And everybody knows how to do it. And then if you don't, you think something's wrong with you.
Right. Your mental space really affects that.
Yes.
Your nursing abilities. I've learned that too.
Absolutely. Another one that's really like an overarching theme is how lonely it can be. And how lonely it can be when you're never actually alone.
Yeah.
Like physically, you got this baby here all the time. But especially that early postpartum can be some of the loneliest times because you feel like nobody else understands what you're going through. And, for some people, it can be a time when they find out who their true friends are. Because as horrible as it is, a lot of moms find out that friendships they had before motherhood are not ones that are going to carry over to motherhood. And that's just, it is what it is. But I think a lot of people are surprised by how lonely it is when they're not prepared for that.
Are you lost in motherhood and feeling overwhelmed with managing it all? The house, the kids, the running around, and everything in between. You're just so tired that the thought of taking time for yourself is simply exhausting. So instead, you numb out on social media and eat those snacks that are hiding in the back of the freezer. And while you're doing this, you're beating yourself up and comparing yourself to the others that you see online, wondering, why can't I do that? Why doesn't my house look like that? And then you go to bed and you tell yourself you'll do better tomorrow. Tomorrow, you'll take some time for yourself. Tomorrow, you'll go to bed early. Tomorrow, you'll plan a date night. But tomorrow never comes. Those promises that you keep making to yourself, they don't happen because you keep doing the same thing over and over again, just like yesterday, but you're expecting different results. I know this feeling. I have been there. I have been lost in these moments of feeling inadequate in loving my kids and wanting to provide for them in the best way possible, but feeling like I'm failing. Like I'm not doing enough. I'm not good enough. You are not alone, Mama. I see you and I want to help you get past this. Get past these negative feelings and thoughts. I want to see you thrive in your motherhood journey and own this season that you're in. I want to help you see the positive in the everyday and enjoy the little moments and learn how to support yourself again. I want to be your best mom friend next door, whose door is always open, the iced coffee is always ready, and that porch swing is always swinging. I am here to guide you through the tough days because, Mama, I've been there. I know what you're feeling, and it's okay. These feelings are valid, but it's how we respond to them that can change the course of our day. Now, Mama, this right here, these feelings that you're experiencing right now, this is why I created my Mama Connection Coaching. I want to help mamas like you, mamas like me, mamas that want to do it all, that know that it starts with them and how they talk to themselves. Mamas that know that you can do it. You just need a little help, a little encouragement to get started. So what do you say? Are you ready to come knock on my door and start connecting with yourself again? Are you ready to feel caught up in your motherhood journey, to know that you got this? Then I encourage you, Mama, to book a Mama Connection coaching call today so that tomorrow can come and you will be ready and you got this.
How sleeping like a baby is not the correct term for anything. I don't know who came up with that. Because
I sleep like dad. I like that one better.
Yes, that is definitely more accurate. Things that you already talked about, like the postpartum hair loss, the body odor. Those are things that nobody talks about, and then you experience them and you're like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why is all my hair falling out? Am I dying? Nope. It's just your hormones. Pelvic floor issues.
Yes, so bad.
I did a live with somebody last night who is a pregnancy and postpartum corrective exercise specialist.
Okay.
It's a mouthful
cool.
But she was teaching us all about the pelvic floor and how there's so many misconceptions about your pelvic floor and such a lack of education and knowledge around it. Like, a lot of people think that if you have a C-section, you don't have pelvic floor issues.
Oh,
not
no,
true.
No.
That's not true.
No.
Because you still had all that weight on your pelvic floor during pregnancy, but people will be like, oh, you didn't push baby out, so you're fine. Not true. And there's so many issues that are pelvic floor related, that are related to other things that nobody connects.
Right.
And so definitely the lack of knowledge and education around that, and just the lack of care.
I think that's a big one, the lack of care. The insurance companies, even, because I'm seeing a postpartum therapist, postpartum therapist, and then pelvic floor
physical therapist. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And my insurance does not cover it at all. Like, no, you don't need that. You had a C-section, so that's not like major surgery or anything. Your husband had surgery to his shoulder. He needs 6 months of therapy and all these things, and a special chair to move his arm. But you got cut in half and you don't need nothing. Or you birthed the baby vaginally. Like, no, you don't need nothing. You're fine.
It's actually something we were talking about last night, how, like, because I have a background in orthopedics. So I've seen the care that you get after having a knee surgery, a shoulder surgery. You get more follow-ups for that than you do for having a baby, or even having a C-section, which is wild. A C-section is a major abdominal surgery. And I mean, I truly believe that pelvic floor physical therapy should be a standard of care for all postpartum moms.
Yeah.
With your discharge, stuff from the
it's
the
fourth
hospital,
trimester, and you need care.
You should get a script for pelvic floor physical therapy, and it should be covered by insurance, just like physical therapy after a surgery is covered. 100%. I could definitely
that was something that I had no idea was a thing with my first. Learned about it because of my husband's PT therapist for his shoulder was actually studying to get her pelvic floor license, and she ended up becoming my pelvic floor person. I've been seeing her for 2.5 years now, because I had babies back to back. Life changing, like those things that you said, you don't even think about it. Like, it hurts to sit down and stand up, and you're like, and then you go to the doctor, like, oh, that's normal. That's just part of being a mom. You're welcome.
Newsflash. No. Peeing after you've had a baby, like leaking pee when you sneeze, cough, do anything,
not normal.
It's not normal. It is common, but it is not normal. And another thing that during this conversation last night that she brought up is it should be a standard of care to have at least one visit for physical therapy during pregnancy, because if you have a tight pelvic floor, that can affect labor and your ability to have that baby vaginally. But nobody thinks about that. They're just like, oh, well, you're having trouble, let's just go to a C-section. Where that could have been, if you would have known that was going to be an issue, you could have worked on that, and it could have been a better experience for everybody.
I think that it really hits on a good point, because like you said, people like, oh, there's both sides to it. So there's the, not having control of your bladder and peeing, and like, yeah, okay, you need pelvic floor. But then there's the being too tight. And for me personally, that was my camp. I was the too tight side. So I was of that mindset of, well, I can control my bladder. Like, I'm fine. I don't need to go. And then you go, I'm like, oh, no, you're too tight. You're not actually completely going, first off. Second, you're so tight that, like, well, how was labor? Oh, not so much fun. And you said traumatic experience, all those things. Like, oh, well, those could have been factors because it was so tight. And then when you're so tight too, other muscles and body parts have to come into play to work, or they get pulled in ways they're not supposed to be pulled. And you don't think about it. Like you said, your pelvic floor is your center. It's holding all of your weight. Think about it, like your shoulders, your chest, your center mass is sitting on your pelvic floor. And if we don't offer it the support it needs, like, what's going to happen? And then you don't even think about it. So, oh my gosh, 100% agree on all of that. You need it during pregnancy, because you can get some really bad pelvic pain during. That was my camp. So painful, like getting in and out of the car, going up and down the stairs, just getting pain just from moving. And you go to the doctor, like, oh, that's normal. It'll go away when you're not pregnant anymore. Okay, so I just need to deal with it for however much longer my pregnancy is. Yeah, just deal with it. You're fine.
Well, and fun fact about the pelvic floor that I learned last night is your pelvic floor stretches 250% during labor.
Oh, wow.
Think about if you stretched your hamstring 250%.
Yeah, no.
Exactly. So you stretch this muscle 250% and then give it zero care after and expect it to be normal.
On its own.
Like,
yeah, that's just crazy.
How does that make sense?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. See, us mamas, we need the support after baby, physically, mentally, all the ways. And it's just forgotten about. We need to advocate for ourselves and push for it. And like I said, like, I'm paying 100% like out of pocket for this pelvic floor, but that's because I know that it's worth it. And because I knew about it, I was able to, put that money aside for it. But I definitely challenge my mamas listening to really consider it and think about it, because you're investing in yourself to take care of yourself mentally and physically. You cannot have, that happy day to day unless you take care of yourself. And if you're in pain all the time, mentally or physically, you need to do something about it. And it's important. Like, you are important. So just had a little side note there, because this is also important. And I hope we get through to at least one mama here who's going to pick up that phone and schedule that mental health call and the pelvic floor therapy too. We need both.
For sure.
Absolutely. Okay. So, Michelle, before we kind of wrap up, I have to ask, what is your number one piece of mom advice that you would give for new moms or moms of littles right now?
Kind of a two-part thing.
Okay.
Ask for help and accept help.
Ooh, good. Yes, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people out there who want to help and they don't know how. And so if you just asked, they jump right on it, because they'll be like, oh yes, I would love to. I just don't know. I don't know how to help you. And then there's going to be those people who offer you the help. Can I come over and hold baby for you so you can go take a nap? Can I drop you off a meal? Say yes. Yes. Don't be too, high and mighty to accept the help. Say yes and accept the help.
That's so true and so good. Thank you, Michelle. I love that. I love this conversation. There is so much juicy pieces, knowledge. Like, you got all the stuff that we need to hear, Michelle. I loved it. So before I let you go, you got to tell us, how can we connect with you more and follow you and learn more about what you're doing for postpartum mamas and what kind of support you have?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm on Facebook at Michelle Solger. That's my kind of most popular platform. That's where I love to live. I also have a Facebook group called Postpartum and Beyond. That is just a way for moms to really connect and support each other. Through my journey, I found that so many moms were looking for that. And so I wanted to create a space for that. And we do, monthly webinars. Like we had our one about pelvic floor dysfunction last night, and just as a way to connect with others. And I'm also on Instagram at Postpartum and Beyond also.
Awesome. Okay. We'll have all those links and stuff in the show notes for you guys, so you can quickly grab them and connect with Michelle and get on her Facebook group and follow her Instagram. She's got some really great reels out there that I've binge watched lately. So, you got to get on there and check her out for sure. All right. Thank you again, Michelle, for coming on. I really appreciate the call today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Mama. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I know you have a lot going on, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I hope this episode gave you new energy to tackle today. If so, could you leave a review and subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode? That would mean the world to me. I'd also love to connect with you on Instagram, so send me a DM and let me know if this episode was helpful. I love hearing from you. Remember, Mama, you got this. Until next time, I'm Jessa Ray, and this is Caught Up in Motherhood.